Hello students, I welcome you to the course English Language Proficiency. The course code is VCC 101. This course has 5 units. As you can see it on the slide, the first is functional grammar, the second unit is spoken English, third is communication skills, fourth is listening and speaking skills, and the fifth is interpersonal skills. I will be taking the third unit, that is communication skills. The contents that will be covered in this particular unit are need and importance of communication, process and types of communication, barriers to communication, principles of effective communication with respect to formal and informal situations, and modern techniques of communication. You are already aware of that this course is practical based. So the focus will be primarily to give you ample opportunities to become more confident in using English language as a medium of communication. We will be discussing with you the concepts, but the focus is going to be on interactive sessions. And interaction does not mean the teacher is going to speak all the time. In this particular course, the role of the teacher will be very limited, rather very negligible. But the role of the students will be manifold. So I am sure you will make the most of it, and after understanding the concepts which we intend making you understand, you will definitely very enthusiastically participate in the various practice exercises. So now let me begin with the third unit, and here my objective is to make you understand, after all, what is communication and what is its significance in our day-to-day life. So here I am just talking about communication in general. I am not binding it to any language, but the basic core meaning of the word communication is what I'm going to discuss at the moment. Now you can see it on the screen as well. There are 3 beautiful pictures which have a very important message to convey. The first picture you can see is of an old lady being helped by a young man to get down the steps which she is finding difficult to cross. Then the second picture is of an elephant and a hand of a human. And by looking at it, I'm sure you will be able to understand that it is a human is offering something which is being accepted by the elephant. And the third picture, which is very sweet, that shows there are squirrels, right, who form a chain and are communicating with each other by sharing some gestures, which is not very clear, but for sure it is they are communicating, they are sharing something between themselves, right? So by looking at these 3 pictures, I'm sure you will be able to understand that there has to be some sort of a link between the 2 entities, 2 persons, or 2 living beings. And that link is primarily of understanding, of sharing, of expressing, right? So it is not all the time necessary that we need to speak, then only a message is communicated. Even a small gesture can also communicate a message, right? Like in the first picture, we can see this, that the old lady is being helped by the young man who understands the difficulty faced by the old lady, right? So he has extended his hand to help the lady. In the second one, we can see that it's not only all the time humans who interact or share with each other, but it is also the animals. They also understand a certain kind of language which binds them or which helps them to connect with the humans. And the third picture is that the animals also connect with each other, not necessarily using human language, but they have their own ways and means of sharing ideas and feelings with each other. Whatever signaling, or you can say any kind of, message which they wish to communicate. So by looking at these pictures, we can understand that what is communication? Communication is primarily the exchange of ideas, feelings, knowledge between two or more persons, right? Now here, it is not all the time necessary it has to be humans. It can also be human and non-human but living entities. Here I would like to just share with you that if you have a pet at home, right? Especially people keep dogs, right? So when you enter your home, you will always see that they would come wagging their tail, licking you. They'll be expressing happiness and joy on seeing you, and you can understand that. So it is not just that you need words or a certain language, even gestures speak, and gestures also help us in binding with each other, right? So primarily communication is a common medium of language. All right. Now common medium of language primarily he says that it is not just words but also a certain gesture, body language. It can be, expressions. So here we are not just talking about the spoken language, but it can also be any kind of language which both the parties should be able to understand. Then they say communication is a continuous process. Yes, absolutely. If there is a delay in the communication process, like suppose let's take the example of two friends. When one friend calls up his friend who lives about 30 kilometers away from his house and he does not pick the phone, it causes worry. Okay, and when the friend picks up immediately, then automatically the flow of idea or feelings or whatever you wish to share, it immediately develops, right? So it has to be a continuous process. Until unless both of them do not sync together, there cannot be any communication. Then comes it has to have a concrete message. Now when we talk about concrete message, it is primarily that we have an idea in our mind which we want to share. It is not that it is just senseless expression. Like for example, if suppose a teacher goes to the class, she goes with a topic in her mind and she dictates, she explains, she gives you notes on that topic. If suppose the teacher does not teach you and anybody goes to your class without any agenda in the mind, what will happen? You will also waste your time. The person who has gone to your class will also waste time. So therefore, we always have a message. Okay, like even if it is, in case of humans and non-human entities, if the dog is hungry, suppose it will keep on, making that sound to attract your attention. It will go jumping around his bowl, wanting you to feed him, right? So you are able to understand that. But if suppose poor animal just keeps on sitting quietly without, you know, um, expressing anything, okay, and you also pay no attention, then what will happen? He will keep on, getting sick, and the stage might come, he might die. So there has to be a medium or a message which needs to be communicated. Then only can one person understand the situation of the other. And last but not the least, there has to be two persons or two living entities. Okay, because until unless there are no two people, like suppose if you are alone in the house and you keep speaking to yourself, you appreciate the sofa, you admire the wall, and you keep on talking loudly, but then there isn't any communication. Why? Because there's no response from the other side. Whereas if you were talking to your parents, they would respond, you will talk to them, they will support you, they will give you their suggestions. So that is supposed to be sharing. Likewise, even if you don't have a human being, but if you have your pet and you go cuddling him and you go talking to him when you're upset or you're lonely or something like that. So what happens? He will lick your hand, he will wag his tail. So you have, a outlet which is being reciprocated. So therefore, until or unless these 4 points are not fulfilled, a communication is not said to be there at all. Okay, so in simple words, communication is a process of sharing ideas, feelings, knowledge, thoughts between two or more persons. It's not necessary that it has to be only two. You can also have a group of friends. If at the human level I'm talking about now, then you can also be having, the what do you call it? The prime minister addressing the nation. That is known as mass communication, where one person addresses the entire congregation, right? So there are different kinds of, groups which may be involved in the process of communication. But the most important thing is a communication cannot take place in isolation. All right. Now, this is the process of communication primarily. Like suppose sender, I'm the sender at this moment. Let's take this situation at the moment. Then what am I doing? I have this concept of, sharing with you the concept of communication. So that communication is being shared, the concept related to communication is being shared by me. And how am I sharing? With the help of the PPTs, right? And selecting pictures, trying to show you that how communication really exists, not only between two humans, but even between humans and animals, and between animals themselves, right? Then I have a certain message which is to communicate, right? So that idea, that concept is there, which is being conveyed to you through the PPT or the lecturing which I'm doing at the moment. The channel which I'm using is verbal as well as written or rather I would say PPTs, right? Like you can read also and you can listen to me also. If suppose I was just speaking to my friend on the phone, it would have been completely verbal. Whereas when the teacher is teaching you and she has a blackboard in front of her and she writes something on that, then it is non-verbal along with verbal, both. So through this channel, the message is sent to the receiver. The receiver receives, that's you, right? Once you have received it, then what do? You analyze, you interpret. Now you saw those pictures. Then I talked about the pets people generally keep. So you must be, thinking if you have a pet, how you associate yourself with the pet, how the pet is able to convey to you, right? So what are you doing? You are decoding the coded message. And then when you are able to understand, then you give your feedback. Feedback is like where I'll be giving you DHAs. So you will answer the DHAs, then I'll get to know, yes, you are understanding the concept. You have understood the basics of communication. Likewise, if we were on oral, mode of communication, you would further tell me that see this particular point is not clear, kindly clarify, or you would say, yes, I have understood. So then I will further continue with my lecture. Otherwise, I will stop there and then, right? So therefore, it is very necessary that we should try to develop communication based on concrete ideas and concepts. All right. And then only this process will be fruitful. Now, as I had told you, you can see this PPT as well, the medium of knowledge flow. There are two kinds, one is verbal, the other is non-verbal. Verbal, you can see that person is speaking, the other one is hearing. Non-verbal is these signs and symbols, that is just a handshake, not speaking to each other. That also expresses you agree with him or we are friends, right? That's the way we greet each other also, right? Nowadays we don't do it, but generally in a formal setup we just shake hands. That itself shows that we are friends, right? So broadly we classify them under two headings, verbal and non-verbal. And under non-verbal we have written message, gestures and signs. Okay, so it is not only all the written script is there, but even we have signs and gestures. Now like here, you can see for yourself that the first picture is of a person who's made a heart-shaped, frame with the help of his fingers, right? And what do we see inside the heart shape? His pet dog. So that shows what? That he's expressing his love for his pet. So did he say these words to us? No. But through the gestures, by looking at the picture, we've been able to conclude this, right? Likewise, whenever somebody greets the other in our Indian custom, we generally fold hands. So this symbol of joined hands is of welcome, of wishing somebody. Okay. Likewise, the third picture is thumbs up. Thumbs up means all the best, well done. Now, generally, you people use it in your messages, this particular sign. Now, this is not speaking, but we can conclude or we can understand what it stands for, right? Likewise, if you have this particular symbol, that is of a printer, then if this particular picture is there, no entry without face mask, and here the first one is without a face mask, so there is a cross, and with the face mask there is right. So that means nobody is permitted to enter that building or that arena where you are prohibited to enter if you are not wearing a face mask. And likewise, the third one is stop. This particular symbol is stop. So are these symbols and signs saying something? Yes. Are they being, spoken by somebody? No. They signify. So therefore, we say gestures are also very important. Okay. They also convey many things. Likewise, your body language also speaks so much about you. That's why we keep on saying that communication not only takes place through verbal mode, but also through non-verbal. The way you stand, the way you sit, the way you move your hands, the way you dress, all that speaks about you. So communication is everywhere. Rather, we would say the communication starts from your birth till your death, because it is sharing that basically takes you through the journey of life. Now let us come to human language, and let us now concentrate on primarily the language, and here slowly and steadily we'll step into English language. So to understand, see now here, first thing I would like to say is there are two very significant differences between the language used by animals and the language used by man. Now, human language is based on so many systems: grammatical system, morphological system, syntactical system. There are so many systems. It has certain, set principles and grounds on the basis of which a language is developed, right? Whereas, what about the animals? No, they don't have any system. But what do they use? They use sound. Alright, the sound is their medium of communicating. Then another very important thing is that in human language, if you wish to master any language, whether it is English, Hindi, German, French, any language for that matter, you have to be an expert in all the four skills. Like here in the picture, we would begin with this one where the lady is sitting with the earplugs and watching something and listening to something, right? Like when we say that if you want to be a good communicator, and like here we are talking about English, then even if you were to be good at Hindi also or French or German, there are four primary skills which we have to learn. One is listening. You should be a good listener. Until unless you are not good at listening, you cannot be a good communicator. Alright, so first picture here, I would start from here only. That is, the lady is listening to something. So until unless you accustom yourself, listen more, then only can you catch a language. Second comes speaking. That not only listening, but whatever is absorbed by your mind, you have to speak out. So more you speak, the more you learn. That's why we keep on saying that you should speak in English. Then only will you be able to master this language. Otherwise, in isolation or without speaking, you cannot learn a language. Then we have got the reading skills. That lady sitting with a book open in front of her, until unless we do not develop the reading skills. After all, in our life, and you can introspect and think that there are so many various kinds of documents, different kinds of books, different kinds of written scripts which we go through in our life. So until unless we do not develop the skill of reading, we cannot learn anything. So therefore, it is advised that develop the skill of reading, reading with concentration, reading with the purpose, right? And then last but not the least is writing. So writing is also very necessary. Not only keeping concepts in mind is sufficient, but you have to also express it. You have to also write it. And until unless, that's why like you are students, we keep on teaching you. But then after all, we grade you on the basis of your answer scripts that you submit after the exams, right? So therefore, we say for learning any language, language to be communicative, we have to develop four language skills, that is LSRW. This is the sequence. The sequence cannot be changed. This is the standard sequence which needs to be followed. So if we learn the LSRW of any language, then we will surely become good communicators in that specific language. All right, so I hope you have understood the concept of communication and what are the important things that we need to keep in mind in order to become masters of a particular language, because language is primarily a link or the medium through which we share, and this medium can be verbal or non-verbal or can be verbal as well as non-verbal, right? So therefore, I think at least the basic concept of communication must have been cleared by this particular lecture. Now, in order to, gauge for yourself, like I said, no feedback. So how much you've understood, I would like you to attempt these questions. These are your DHA questions and also very, simple, but at the same time, very specific questions, which will help you to really analyze that whether you've been able to understand the concept of communication or not, right? So that's all for this lecture. I hope you've understood and you've enjoyed it. If there are any queries, you're most welcome to communicate through the mail or through any kind of, verbal communication if it is possible. So once again, thank you very much. Good luck.